Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of DREIA Street Talk. Today, I'm going to welcome Asad Ahmad, a FitBiz CPA, a DREIA member. You can find more information about him at DREIA.com on our vendor site. So, Asad, here we are in June right now, and people think tax season is over. And my premise is it's not. You need to be planning all year. What's up?
Thank you for the introduction, Jim. I appreciate you having us on. And yeah, that's totally correct. Tax season is over, but not really, because if you have a proactive CPA and you're a real estate investor, you need to be proactively planning with them. They need to be calling you, they need to be setting up meetings with you, and they need to be going over your Schedule E, your rental property portfolio, and talking about the depreciation strategies that you can implement right now to get the best write-offs. There are a few strategies that a lot of real estate investors focus on, like the real estate professional status, cost segregation, accelerated depreciation. These are what help real estate investors produce passive losses. And when you have passive losses, you can offset your passive income, which is your rental income. But these are hard to achieve. For example, real estate professional status, you need 750 hours. I don't know about you, but a lot of investors would struggle with meeting that. That's almost 12 to 13 hours a week, self-managing your property. But there are other strategies that real estate investors can use. A couple of those strategies include the short-term rental loophole and the TPR, the 2013 Tangible Property Regulations that were passed by Congress. Now let's talk about first the short-term rental loophole. First, let's say you rent out your property for 7 days or less, for example, an Airbnb or a Vrbo. And let's say you have 3 properties. Let's say that you also have quite a bit of income. You're a high net worth individual. You and your spouse are W-2 employees. You guys make anywhere from $200,000 to $400,000 a year. That's quite a bit of income, but let's say 175 or 200K a year. And you're struggling with meeting that real estate professional status criteria, right? You can't meet that 750 hours. You're scrambling, your CPA, maybe if they're not real estate specialized, they don't understand the ins and outs of how to get the most deductions. What you need to do, Jim, is when you get with your CPA, you need to tell them that you do short-term rentals. Let's say you have 4 properties and you're renting them out for 7 days or less, and you meet the material participation test. Now, this is key. Material participation is 100 hours. Real estate professional status is way more, but with that material participation of 100 hours, you meet the criteria to do accelerated depreciation, cost segregation on those properties. So let's say you've got 3 properties. You can start doing the accelerated depreciation, and let's say you create losses of anywhere from 80,000 to 120, or let's say $100,000 in losses. Now you can take those losses against your W-2 income, and you can substantially reduce your tax liability. Now that is a key strategy, the short-term rental loophole, which a lot of CPAs don't tell their clients about, and a lot of investors are not aware of. This is an amazing strategy that everybody should be taking advantage of. Did you have any questions about that, Jim?
Well, so even though you're really making income, if you employ this strategy, you get better tax write-offs, right?
Yes, better deductions. Yes.
Okay. So I won't ask you to define cost segregation, but I think, is it safe to say most CPAs who deal in real estate know what that is?
If you're a CPA and you work primarily in real estate, you should know what a cost segregation is. If you are not in real estate, then you're less aggressive and you don't know what a cost segregation is. A cost segregation is essentially classifying that 27.5-year property, into 5-year property and depreciating it in the first year and taking the entire write-off. So it could be your roof, your appliances, your lighting, your fixtures, all of that. You take the reclassify it, and boom, that's where the savings are generated.
All right. All right, so let's go on. We can come back to that, or people can consult you or their CPAs about that. Now let's go on to other things.
Yes. The other strategy that I want to really hone in on is the tangible property regulations of 2013. Now, this strategy is phenomenal. The reason why I say it's phenomenal is because it's an alternative to the shiny tax strategies of real estate professional status and cost segregation. If you can't take advantage of those two main ones, this is an alternative, the TPR. The TPR allows you a de minimis safe harbor. So that means you can take $2,500 right off the top on your tax returns. You can take it as a deduction. Let's say you bought a computer or 5 computers worth $2,500 each or $2,000 each. Boom, you take that deduction in the first year. In addition, let's say you're a small taxpayer, you're a really small taxpayer, and you are looking to get deductions, take those write-offs, and you're struggling to meet the criteria, the income criteria, or the real estate professional status criteria, you can take $10,000 off in routine maintenance, routine supplies, expenses for your property, anything of that nature. You can take $10,000, up to $10,000, or 2% of your adjusted basis of your property in the current tax year. So this is again amazing, because if you bought new appliances and you bought new fixtures or other additions to the property that you made, you renovated it, you did all that stuff, you incurred all these expenses. And if it's under $10,000 or up to $10,000, you can take that as a write-off. That's another great strategy in the TPR. The third great one is for commercial real estate investors, or maybe even a residential as well, actually, the partial property disposition. The partial property disposition is phenomenal. The reason why I say that is, let's say you're renovating a property, right? You bought a property, it's in bad shape, and you're renovating it. And let's say you had replaced the roof, and you replaced the roof, but the roof has some depreciation, which not taken in the earlier years, right? It's got uncaptured depreciation, or a depreciation that was not taken. And what you can do is you can take that depreciation right off in the year that this partial disposition occurred. So in the year of the partial disposition of that roof, you can take that additional deduction from depreciation, reduce your taxable income, and get more benefits on your return year end. So those are the main advantages of your TPR, tangible property regulations.
Define the word partial in this sense.
Partial property disposition would really be, it's a roof that still has some depreciation left. It still has some life left. It's still.
So I've owned the property for a while. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you've owned the property for a while, and you've taken off the roof, you replaced the roof, you've got a new roof in there, but on the roof that you replaced, you haven't taken the full depreciation. You haven't fully depreciated it. So if you haven't fully depreciated it, what do? You've already taken it out. You've put in a new roof. You can still take that write-off, that full depreciation, in the year that this occurred in, meaning you replaced it. You can still take that on your tax.
Well, I have 10 years left on depreciation, and I'm replacing the roof. I can take 10 years right then.
Yes, absolutely. That's called.
Can I do that only if I'm employing cost segregation?
That is, yes, you have to do a cost segregation. So that is one important portion of that. You have to take a cost segregation first, and then you can take the partial property disposition.
So cost segregation applies to all my rentals, whether they're short-term or long-term.
Whether they're short-term or long-term, you can do cost segregation, whether they're single family or commercial, or they're whatever property it is, it's eligible for cost segregation.
So landlords, listen up. I'm sure you're familiar with cost segregation, but you need to be thinking about this, because we all replace roof, we all replace things that are itemized in cost segregation. And if you're missing that additional deduction, that, in other words, finishing off the depreciation, this is something your CPA, did your CPA tell you this? That's a really good point, and something that, you really have to think deep to get this going.
Absolutely, absolutely, Jim. These strategies are just alternatives to the real estate professional status, because if you have real estate professional status, you can write off much more. You're able to take massive losses, passive losses, and then write that passive loss off against your active income. Generally, you cannot write off active income against passive losses. Or you can't write off passive losses against active income because it's not allowed. The active income is W-2 income, and passive income is your rental income. So passive losses can offset passive income, but your W-2 income cannot be written off because it's active income. You're actively participating in it. That's why there's a lot of issues that investors encounter with having huge tax liabilities, but they don't know about these loopholes that can help them mitigate that.
So if we can produce a passive loss, then that impacts our overall tax situation. Is that what you're saying?
It depends. It depends. It depends. Always depends, Jim. When you have these strategies in place, like the real estate professional status, like cost segregations, like, let's say, TPR, the de minimis safety harbor, partial property disposition, if you have these strategies in place, then yes, you can offset your W-2 active income with your passive losses from your depreciation, accelerated depreciation.
Okay, so I've got this bright idea. We're going to call this segment "If Your CPA Hasn't Told You." Okay, that's what we're going to call this. And I would encourage all of you to talk to your CPA about this. If you don't have one, I would encourage you to call Assad. So anything else you wanted to partake? We're going to come back to this, and we're going to cover a few more things in the future. Would that be okay with you?
That's perfectly fine with me, Jim. These topics are going to keep coming up. There's so many strategies that investors can use, like cost segregation, real estate professional status, the other strategies like land conservation easements, and multiple other things like working in syndicates and partnerships and other strategies and loopholes that we can utilize legally, of course.
Okay. So today we covered short-term real estate loophole, tangible property regulation, and real estate professional status. And what was the other one? If you just do 100 hours?
The material participation.
And the material participation. So these are four things that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are short or long-term rental operators, these are four things that you can use now, start now, to affect your future taxes. Okay, Assad, I'm going to say thank you, and we'll sign off now. I know you're a busy guy, but I thank you for this time, and happy renting, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim.